there was 4 wines you were doing. 2 of them were, oh, it was the Costco.
Costco shit enough to pop. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and your excitement in terms of some of the things that you were noticing when you look at the wines, it's very similar. It's the same reaction of what, videos I would have seen years earlier. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I do appreciate that.
How did you get
I
started
stayed a
wine side?
I basically took I fell in love with wine, or I started liking wine probably when I was a kid, and I'm not a churchgoer now. I'm not religious, but I remember when my parents would say it was Communion Sunday. I would get so excited because that tanginess, even though it was probably grape juice, was supposed to be wine, that tanginess, and I held on to that. I didn't really drink. I would come from a drinking family until my last year of university, college, what we call in America, we I saw a little film called Sideways. And I thought, wow. I was like, Miles was an alcoholic, but he was sure passionate and interested about wine. He knew a lot. And I was like, I want to know a little bit more about this. I was trying to buy bottles and stuff, but I was in graduate school at the time, and you're not drinking the best wine. And for a while, it's like, why does this all taste the same? I mean, what the heck? I took during graduate school, I went on a backpacking trip throughout Europe, and I sat down in Lucca in Tuscany, ordered a liter of Sangiovese, and I remember smelling that for literally 5 minutes straight, just putting my nose in it. And my two friends looked at me like I was a weirdo. And I thought, wow, this is pretty magical. So that kind of aided. And then I traveled around the world. I moved to Singapore, in Jakarta, Indonesia, then Singapore, and started private practice. I'm a chiropractor by training. And when I started making money, that's when you could drink better stuff. That's when you really start drinking better stuff. And after that, I traveled. I took a sabbatical after 6 years of private practice. It was one of the busiest practices in Southeast Asia. I was really rocking and rolling, and I decided to take a sabbatical to travel around the world. And supposed spending all my money on wine and tasting and eating. So I thought, why not give this a shot? I started actually writing about wines of Turkey, Georgia, Armenia, kind of moved to the Balkans, Eastern Europe, started out in the lesser known wine regions and kind of worked my way up, um, to covering basically all regions, even the finer wines of the world. Not to say there's not fine wines made in those regions, because there absolutely is. And ironically, in a couple of weeks, I'll be going back to Georgia for a film and wine festival. I submitted actually a video I produced, and I'll be judging the local competition. So
Really?
yeah, I'll be
That's amazing.
and then I'll be back in Georgia back in October again to judge a competition I do annually there. So yeah, that's kind of the genesis of it. When I admit I was literally traveling for 7 years without a home, just throughout the wine world, and that was my practical education. So a lot of it was pragmatic. Yeah, I did do WSET 3. I know you're doing diploma, which I will probably get around to eventually, but I just did WSET 3 for the heck of it. And yeah, most of my education was practical and on the ground. So that's the origin story in 60 seconds or
That's
120 seconds,
amazing.
or
That
however
is.
long that is.
So yeah, my practical experience with wine is nothing, like it's very, very embryonic. That's why I like, doing the education of it. So and I'm not the best student in the world. I try to know a little bit more because I think some information is always helpful. A diploma has been a little more intensive on the WSET side, but I figure once you start something, you gotta sort of
Oh,
power through.
you're a completionist. No wonder you have these type of guests on your podcast. You're a completionist.
I guess. Um, so we talk about core values on this podcast, and I'm curious about what comes up for you when we talk about something like core values. Does that resonate for you? Does that mean anything?
100%, 100% values. The hierarchy of values dictates the outcomes of your life, the choices, the decisions you make. When I was in private practice, my business coach uh, sat me down. We took about there was a list of about 200 values, and I whittled them down to the top 10. You learn that obviously your life is the lens through which your core values are. Like as Ayn Rand said, if there's ever an indiscrepancy, you got to check your premise. I learned when I wrote that out, uh, number one and number two were experience and travel. And unfortunately, to this, and it wasn't the top 10, but friends and family were still lower than that. So that's the lens through which I see the world, and that's why I like wine so much because it gives me the opportunity to travel. I mean, this year I'm over 230 days on the road. I think starting August, I will be home only 1 week for the rest of the 1 week a month for the rest of the year.
Wow.
Um, so that's what values are incredibly important in terms of dictating your life outcomes. That's why I've also stayed true to YouTube for better or worse. I am an image-based person. That's YouTube kind of gives me that creative outlet. So that also fulfills some of my core values. So I look really hardly into this stuff. It really dictates how I live life and how I see the world. All of us do, but most of us are just not consciously aware of it. So
I
few
got I
people,
got the right guy for this podcast, man. You're preaching the gospel, as they say. I love that.
yeah, so few people really have the time to sit down and dictate their core values and what they and be honest with yourselves. I'll give you an example. When I was in private practice, I was quite successful. I had one of the busiest practices in the area, but actually my friend who came to Singapore because I was there, said I was doing well, his practice was more successful. But he's also really into personal development as I am. Um, he values things like physical fitness more. So he's still like we're both 42. He's still got a six pack. He still looks great. He works out like crazy. But his practice was bigger than mine and he was saving more money because we were open about money, everything. He was saving more money, man, and it would frustrate the heck out of me. Like, why is my practice bigger? Why am I not making as much money? Granted, I had no reason to be like jealous. Comparison's the thief of joy. But when you sit down, his value system he is was chiropractic practice. He's still in practice right now, has a very successful practice, and money is very important to him as well. So that kind of drives his decisions. And he's loosened up a little bit on that and he's learned to live a little bit, which I'm very proud of. Um, but that's this you have to know yourself and you have to know what your values are and not be frustrated because you get outcomes dictated on your what you value in life. And a lot of people think that they value something else and then are frustrated with the outcomes. For me, a lot of people come to me and they want to travel. They look at my Instagram feed or like my life, like, oh my God, it's so amazing. And it is. It is. I'm not going to say it's not. I just got back from a trip in Canada literally last night. Then had to do a YouTube live. I was so fired up, but it's not a life for everybody. Why I'm not going for, I'm not just going and sitting on the bench or sitting at a table and drinking wine. It is real work. You taste in the morning. Sometimes you start at 8 a.m., taste 50 to 100 wines sometimes. You do the
Wow.
competitions, and it's long dinners, and you got to talk with producers all day. Then it's another long dinner. You don't get to bed maybe 10 up to midnight, especially if people want to after party, so to speak, or just kind of get together, which is where all the best things happen in terms of networking, business, getting to know people. So hopefully I partake in that. Then you start over again at 8 a.m. Plus you're also dealing with constant jet lag. So it's not for like people say they want to travel and do these things, but are you willing to pay the price in life? I know that when I was in graduate school and I fell in love with the travel bug, I started to shape out my life. I didn't wear any cool clothes. I still I'm a minimalist. I don't, have great clothing. Worked hard all semester, saved up as much money as possible, and then on breaks I would take trips. I'd spend all that money on trips,
Mm.
and I wasn't going out to the bar, I wasn't going out to the club because I valued the trip I was going to take in between semester breaks. So, um, I think a lot of people are quasi aware of it, but not too many people are really aware of it, and that's where frustration can sink in.
Yeah, you really, I think that travel can be exciting in the short term, but in the long
Mhm.
term, you really have to be engaged. I mean, I did quite a bit of travel when I was at a couple of companies, and I remember I used to do a lot of international travel. What is even domestic? And I remember I have three children, and my youngest was still really little at the time. And I remember, coming out of the closet on a Saturday morning, and he looks at me and he goes, "Daddy, where are you home?" Oh, like take your heart and just like rip it out. So it's like, okay. And I love to travel. I do it. I do love to travel. Probably not as much as you do, but I do appreciate the international travel. But it is not something that is very easy when you do it for the long term, for sure.
Especially if you value family, which most people do. Most people have family high up on their priority list. I do not. I don't want to have children. Um, I am a single man. I'm not married. So Yeah, yeah, travel's gonna trump it. If something came up, unfortunately, I'm gonna pick travel. That's where a lot of people get frustrated. But like you said, you maybe slow down a little bit because you valued family and spend time with your family. Um,
Yeah, well,
that's what you
those
choose.
little ones are growing up, so I wouldn't mind doing the travel again, picking it up these days. My youngest, just as sort of a weird side note, my youngest is going to study college in Croatia. So
I lived there for some time. My first One of my first wine books was about Croatia, which is still a top seller on Amazon. I don't write that much anymore, but Croatia is an amazing place.
I might have to get some tips.
Fantastic
You,
wines.
we're heading over there in about a month, so I might have to hit you up for some recommendations. Yeah, I love that stuff. How do you keep your palate without exploding when you're tasting that much?
And with the key is actually staying hydrated and not. I don't drink a ton anymore at home. I get a lot of wine sent to me. I judge about 6 to 8 international competitions a year. I get about 1,000, maybe even more samples sent to me. Also on big trips, I probably annually taste anywhere around 3,000 to 5,000 wines a year.
Wow.
Um, it's just a matter of mental focus and keeping sharp. I think the best example is when I was younger. I was doing university, you party and stuff. I would never let myself get drunk. I always hated the excuses people tell me, "Oh, I was drunk," or when I was drinking, I would always keep mental focus and say, don't get drunk, don't lose control. Just stay focused. And that's what, when it comes to wine tasting, it's all mental focus. It's actually quite exhausting. A lot of people
Yeah.
think, oh, but when you're actually trying, right? When you were actually tasting for W set, it's probably something new to you. When you're actually trying to pick out specific nuances and then you have to record them, it takes a lot of mental focus. Actually, tasting wine has made me better in a lot of areas of life. It's super important. It's just mental focus and it is stamina. You sacrifice, for instance, like my dental health hasn't always been the great, something that's frustrated me. Definitely it takes its toll on it because there's so much acid in the wines. You really got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not always fun. It's really, I mean, I'm stuck on this idea here. I get a region sent me 45 different wines from one specific region, and I
Wow.
had to sit down and that's work. It takes a lot of mental focus. And I'm not gonna say it's not fun. It's awesome, but yeah,
Well,
keeping your
it's interesting. I would imagine a lot of people don't see or don't feel all that work behind the scenes. Like your videos are awesome and you have such energy in there, but the tasting is like a skill, and that's
that
something I've been learning. You really have to develop it.
you have to develop. And I'm not the best taster in the world. When we talk about the hierarchy of tasters, I've tasted with people that are much better than me. Um, Obviously, we're talking about kind of the upper echelon of wine professionals. Uh, yeah, and even like building out, people don't even realize. Like right now, I'm in my studio. I don't have I just shot a video. I have 3 cameras going. I have 2 cinema lights. I have 5 accent lights going on. I also have to manage 2 microphones at the same time. Then you have to put that together in the editing studio. Those are skills that I've learned along the way because I wanted again, uh, wine was a gateway for travel for me. YouTube was a way for self-expression, which was high up on my value system. So I learned how to become a wine professional and how to become a YouTuber. If you see my early videos, they absolutely sucked. I shot the first 700 with an iPhone 6 and a microphone, and they were awful. I was so
But what's interesting though is as you're talking about that, it's completely aligned with your value structure, right? And obviously you understand that through some of the training you had. But I think to your earlier point, a lot of people may not see that, right? And it causes frustration in their life, and they don't know why. Like I always see like the frustration as a conflict with one of your core values that you're not really aware of. So people are dealing with the end result and not thinking about what the cause of it is.
yeah, the conflicts clarify. When you have internal conflict, you have to go back and check your premise, and you have to be, there are times I have all most of my good friends are entrepreneurs or maybe kind of C-suite type of people. And when I get frustrated that maybe I'm not living the financial life that they're living, and we have discussions, it's always goes back to your premise and foundation. Like I had one good friend, the one I was talking about that's in great shape, and we talk 3 times a week, really long conversations just like this. And he's like, man, he's like, when I was frustrated one time, he's like, you could have everything I had. You made a choice in life. And that was really a reminder. And it's not nor good nor bad because a lot of them say it sometimes to me. They're like, God, I wish I could just leave my life and just travel like you and have all these amazing experiences. And yeah, it's all about the choices that you make in life, and your choices are dictated by your core values.
Yeah,
If
and
you're honest with yourself.
others who may say that to you, when they look at their core values and how it may manifest, they may have a different experience than you. It may not be as positive, right? So that alignment, that I like, it's like the congruency, core values congruency is really important. It's nice to see all these wonderful things, but is that who you are, and who you will
Oh, I
be?
know. I him personally and another friend who's my ex basketball teammate in Singapore. Actually, well, oddly enough, he worked for the NBA chain, and now he's the commissioner of the Taiwanese Basketball Association, which is amazing. I played basketball pretty competitively my whole life. I'm still playing actually, and him and also my other friend was just talking about that's still in practice, still has a six pack. They both traveled around the world, and I met up with them at various times, and I could tell that they weren't like the last guy, the guy that's had a commissioner of the Taiwanese Basketball Association. He stopped traveling. He's like I just miss my dogs, man. I thought this is what I should be doing. I thought it was kind of a midlife crisis, and he just went back because that's not who he was. Even my other friend wanted to travel like I was to see all these amazing places. And when we're honest, we talk about, it was awesome. It was a great experience, but would he do again? Probably not, because
Yes.
that's not what he's valued. I travel so much and I would even travel more. And this year, thank good, I'm going to, um, amazing place. Like I'm going to Ukraine this year. I was in South America. I'm going to Chile next month. I was in Argentina and Uruguay for the first time, back in March. So I would do it 1,000 times over. I still love going to the airport. I don't care if I have to deal with the security, if they have to open up my bag all the time and look at my camera equipment and ask what it is because there's cords and everything
Right,
everywhere.
right.
I don't care because I know what's happening on the other side of that flight. And I enjoy going. So I enjoy the whole I enjoy sitting in the plane, turning off my phone because I social media is my life. I sitting down watching a movie. I enjoy the whole process.
You
And
must
that's what
have the most amazing amount of frequent flyer miles.
I do have quite a few. They're spread out through different, mostly Delta, yeah. But um, yeah, that's the perk. I've built this life where I travel for free. I travel for free. But again, what do you value in life? I mean, I had a dilemma. Even I had for the first time in a while a girlfriend a couple years ago, about a year and a half ago, 2 years, and that was frustrating because there was conflict. It was like, oh man, I love this, but I kind of would like to be back a little bit more. But then, yeah, like life, there's always a cost, right? If there's no
Yeah.
such thing as a free lunch, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Those are two phrases that, as you get older, as I've gotten older, I don't know what your age is now. I'm 40,
I'm
43.
52.
I'm 43 on Wednesday. That those
Oh,
phrases,
happy birthday.
thank you. They start to ring more true um, as I get older. They're like life. I used to think. I remember my business coach told me once. He's like, "Man, everything has a price in life. It's either going to cost you money or time. That's it." And when I was younger, you have unlimited energy. You know, back then I had the world by the balls. I was a young guy, successful practice in a big international city. I got all the time and energy in the world. I do not now. I definitely get frustrated. I'm a one-man show. I'd like to have a lot more content out, a lot more stuff out. I'd like to be further along in some other business ventures, but I don't. But time and energy, man. I don't, time's finite, and energy depends on how well you take care of yourself.
Yeah. One of the other reasons why I was very excited that you were going to have this conversation, obviously from the wine and everything else, but your breadth of experience and the people that you've encountered, it seems pretty intense. Can you do values come up when you see people in a weird way, or like when you do you think about values when you're around the world, or does that
Oh,
come up?
100%. I love evo psychology. I love applied psychology. I read a lot in my spare time. I'm a single man also. I'm very interested not just for myself, the interplay between men and female intersexual dynamics, or man or woman, depending on your orientation. So even on trips and stuff, I like to see like who's like with who. I think about all the time. You can tell really quickly, you can tell what people value just in the conversations, especially when you travel and strangers, because usually strangers, if you're traveling, that you meet anybody that's traveled has experience, you usually have some real conversations right away, and you learn about what people value because you might not see that person ever again, which is kind
Mhm.
of it's in a way it's a little bit sad that you maybe you don't have those conversations with loved ones as much, which I work really hard to have, but yet at the same time it is romantic and easier to kind of have those conversations with people that you think they're just gonna you're gonna forget about or they're gonna forget about you. So yes, I think about that all the time. In my world, for instance, I do this full time. A lot of wine writers, wine media where I'm on trips with, they're either retired or with a spouse that is making like that's the breadwinner. It's very difficult to make a living in this industry. Very
Yeah.
difficult unless you start to move up to the top tier, which is there's just a handful of those people, and that's what I'm trying to work towards. But people hold on to this kind of lifestyle because it affords them travel experiences and wine and food, and that's what people value. That's why, and you can see that because there's some really like quote unquote starving artists in my business, and they hold on to that because they what do they value? They value uh, culture, food, wine, people, and travel.
Mm. Yeah. Do you see that in winemakers when you talk to winemakers?
Oh yeah, of course you see a lot. You can see people that are really focused just like on making money, which is totally okay, especially in wine. As you know, wine consumption is down. I want to see people drink more wine. So if you're making, so high end artisanal producers still sometimes struggle to to make like they don't want to make a rosé or they don't want to make something simple that most people want to drink, but you got to sometimes make those wines survive unless you've built a real name for yourself. So I totally see it in wine producers, and I um I get to you have dinner with these producers. Sometimes you get a little have a little bit more than you should have. Not that you get crazy, but people, I mean, that's the best thing about wine for me. I believe the core value of wine is a bottle is to keep people you love or want to be in relations with, not at the table longer. People that you love or people you care about, just keep them at the table longer. That's what a bottle does. And conversations come out, yeah, and you learn quite a bit about what people producers really value. And a lot of the real passion, the real great ones are a little bit wacky, a little bit crazy, which is not. I'm a little bit wacky. I'm very wacky and crazy. Obviously, look at my lifestyle, and you see maybe it's artisanal expression, maybe it's prestige. Some producers I know that are like kind of the superstars, the rock stars of the region. I know that's got to drive them. I know, for instance, for me, something for me, since I am an image-based person. I don't know if you know the Enneagram system, but
No.
I'm big on the Enneagram system. It's probably for me the best personality identification system. There's 9 types. I'm a 3. I'm an achiever.
Okay.
um I have to admit, especially as I built my platform in I'm nobody in the big world thing. We are all nobody in the greater scheme of things.
Yeah.
We're a speck of sand on this little rock flying through this humongous galaxy. But in my little niche, since I'm one of the handful of YouTube channels that's fairly big, I am known wherever I go on trips, and I have that also is a driving factor in why I keep doing this. I do like the prestige. I do like the applause, the admiration that comes with this. Um, I think that's why YouTube's also so unique. No matter, even if you get big, huge, you can also walk down the street, nobody knows you, right? People, your followers or people like in your niche, of course, they can come sometimes see you as quote unquote a demigod, which isn't that, it's not great either. But you can still walk down the street and live a normal life or blend in somewhere and nobody knows you.
Well, I think your approach is it's very down to earth, right? A lot of people I have this, and maybe this is shifting, and I hope it is, and you maybe you and some of the others are part of that shift, is that it goes away from the foo-fooiness of wine. I mean, you have fun with it, you explain it in sort of normal terms, you're giving value. You're not just talking about the incredible wines of the world. You had some Kirkland wines that you were exploring. So you run the gamut, and your knowledge, I mean, it's obviously pretty vast in the area. So you're an expert in this space, and it aligns with who you are. And that's why I was curious about your exposure to others and is there any common threads, or do you see things that are consistent in the wine world,
Look,
which
the wine world, I'm gonna speak candidly. I don't care because I'm independent. It's still quite archaic, still very archaic relationship based. I was just talking about this actually with literally on Saturday night with one of the board of directors of the wines in Ontario. He's got a background in advertising, really bright guy. Also, he was like 50 and he looked like he was 30. I was like, how the hell do you look so good? But anyways, he was talking about subcultures and he found wine fascinating. And we were talking about breakdown, subcultures. You have a community, you have like-minded individuals that come together, you have different personalities, you have cults of personalities. And he's like, I find it so funny that it's, to me, fascinating, the world of wine, because it's still very insular, and it is. I had a humongous struggle for many, many years when I was starting out, because especially my career started in Europe, especially with British. It's a very different culture, especially because I was a younger American.
yeah.
And also, I was a new guy on the scene, so there's a lot of gatekeeping, and a lot of people were really nasty to me, really, really nasty. I dealt with that for a long time, but again, my value system was experience, travel, be culture, food, wine, all of this. So I just kept pushing, and well, it's funny. I was just talking with this gentleman, and I was like, now when people try to talk to me and ask for me for help, if I know they were mean to me, when we started. I am not helping anybody. I'm not helping them. If there's a handful of people that were helpful, no matter what, I will go to the ends of the earth to help them out in any way possible.
I,
So
I think it's what you put out there, you're going to receive, right? So there's an element of that as well.
I probably, honestly, if I was a better human being, I probably should suck up my ego and just help anybody, regardless, even if they were nasty to me early on. I actually have started thinking about that because there was a couple of grudges I held with people, and I was like, you know what, this that's not super healthy. So, uh, yeah, I went off a little tangent. I don't know if I answered your question or
No, no,
not
no, 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 no.
about
There's
like
no. The
the
more
wine.
tangents, the better. I think for when this is just a conversation. So, do you still run into those people,
All the
or
time, all the time, all the time. Uh, my the people that were nasty kind of can't ignore me anymore because it's like, okay, I'm sitting at the table with them now, so it's like you have to put up with me. And I mean, I'm not like, it's so funny because I've when I was younger, a pitfall I had, like, again, depending on your values, I wanted to be liked, right? So you
yeah,
sometimes you do or say things maybe that you shouldn't do. And I know in general, I'm a pretty likable guy, but in general, I know that they could be abrasive to people that are maybe more introverted, or especially more maybe some more conservative European, or some British, especially in the wine culture. I know I'm definitely a lot different, so I've learned to mitigate that a little bit, but it's all about adapting. That's that one tangent just now, that limiting tangent. I forgot what the original question was. I'm sorry.
no, 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 no worries. Like I said, it's just a journey in terms of where we are, where we're going. I think for me, it's just I'm trying to understand if there's common threads that we all have. So, for example, like I mentioned, I like the Finger Lakes region in terms of wines, and very embryonic, and that's a region that's up and growing. And the one word that I hear a lot, or the feeling that I get when I speak to a lot of these winemakers, is collaboration,
Yeah.
right? And I don't know, Matthew, if that's something that's specific to that region, because I'll talk to one winemaker. He'll say, you know what, I didn't have something to bottle my wine, and this guy who was right next to me, basically, my competitor, said, yeah, anytime, come on over. I'll bring my bottling machine over, and we'll do that. I had another winemaker told me he was just starting out, and he went to one of the neighbors down the road, and he said, whatever you bottle, bring it here. I'll help sell it, and we'll move it. So it was this incredible. I keep hearing story after story of how that region lifts each other, and I don't know if it's specific to that region. Is it specific to the
Does it
industry?
happen? Doesn't happen everywhere, but you think of the great. Well, I think regions that are emerging out of necessity have to do that because they're making the name for
Yeah,
themselves in a very, very competitive market. Like there's a dark reality of the wine. I mean, you look at this. Look at the supermarket shelf. There's a bigger selection of wine than any other product. Napa became great because producers got together and they wanted to make the great wine possible, so they collaborated. I don't know. I'm not as interwoven in the Napa community now, so I don't know. I know, like, I just got from Niagara, Canada. They're all incredibly collaborative, and then the nature of Canadians that they're pretty friendly,
yeah.
and that's doing them wonders. I know. Parts of Eastern, I spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe. One example I come up with, Istria, Croatia. They have really gotten together and uniformly made a style of fresh Malvasia Istarska, which is the white wine there. And now it's successful, and everybody sells out that wine, and then they have money to do their aged Malvasia. They have money to do their aged reds, wines that maybe don't sell as much because they collaborated. They said, this is the style. This is what we want to present to the world, to present to tourists that come into the country. So yeah, it's incredibly important, but I don't see that in every, and sometimes it's really difficult because, uh, let's not picking on, Chianti Classico is one of my favorite regions in the world in Tuscany. I'm not as interwoven. I'm interwoven in the wines, like I know the wines, but not the people as much. But the just the diversity of the landscape. It's a mountainous region. It's hard to get from place to place. Like as a crow flies, you can see it's only like it looks like it's 10 miles away, but it's going to take a heck of a lot longer because you're going through the roads. So just by time's sake, sometimes people you cannot be collaborative because there's geographical barriers or time
Yeah.
barrier or temporal barriers.
I'd like to explore that. Is there something different about that region? Maybe it's not collaboration. Maybe there's something else. I don't know. So, my running thesis is, and you can tell me I'm pie in the sky or I'm nutty, but I think that whatever those people are doing, whatever region they are, that ends up in the bottle too. It's not just the, so I think how you make and what you make ultimately.
Oh,
Am I being
the
too foo
biggest.
Matt? You do better. I
No,
mean, I
no,
have seen
the
them, but
biggest,
you do it.
the biggest,
So
one of the biggest, you hit it nail on the head. One of the biggest components of terroir is people, because people make like you can you can a grape can turn into wine and turn into pretty shitty wine automatically. I don't know if we can swear on this
you
podcast,
can
but
swear as well. You do whatever you want. Yeah.
but to make fine wine, it takes a lot of manipulation. It takes a lot of adjusting. So people are and style, the style of wine that they want to create. So the human element is an incredibly important part of terroir. And even we want to get a little bit more microscopic. I'm getting to the kind of the point as I get further along in this. I've been doing this wine 10 years now, as a career. I start to look even, yes, I look at region. People want to talk about region, but I think within that region, producer is more important.
Mm.
Producer is more important. Just like anything, you know that they're going to they like the saying is, you know who's a great producer because they still make great wine and poor vintages,
So,
or you taste the basic wine from a great producer and it's still great because they put that still love, care, and attention into the vineyards, into the winemaking, as they do with any other top bottlings.
so what is it about a producer? Is it an attitude? Is it a feeling? Or can you identify what it is about that producer or a producer?
No, I've seen that people make great wine that are type A personalities that are real specific. It's all about details. You see great wines being made in France that they're very laissez-faire, very hands-off, and they're doing it just the way their grandfather's done, their grandfather does it. I think probably it's just again going down to passion for something. I've seen producers that focused on not only make money making great wines because you got to put a great product in the bottle. So that's what drives them to make great wine. Some they have the love of the land, love of people. These are their grandfather's vines, their great grandfather's vines. So they want to be stewards of the land. They're making great wine. So I don't think it's like anything when we talk about human beings, it's really difficult to pinpoint a specific thing because there's so many factors.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Well,
And
and this is
that's why wine's exciting. That's why wine is the most complex beverage on the planet. There's 1,000 volatile compounds in the glass of wine. We're
that's
consciously, I don't know how much you are in neurology. I think we're consciously only able to detect maybe 30 to 50 bits of information a second, but yet you put your nose in the glass. There's 1,000 volatile compounds in there. How many can you really pick out?
that is amazing. Well, I think you even said on your one of the episodes I saw the other day, there's just too much to know. Not everybody can know everything, and that's part of the fun. It's the
Oh yeah.
exploration.
Oh, somebody was asking me how I do my videos. Like, you all know off the top of your head? I said, when I know I'm gonna do a video, there's some points I go refresh and study what I need to know, and then I go off tangents on what I know. It's not a teleprompter because people like spontaneity. That's why they like YouTube. They like authenticity, and I just go on little tangents like I'm going on right now. And sometimes I make a few. I try not to make too many factual mistakes. I try to look that up because that's stuff that you need to know, but a lot of it in wine is subjective and experiential, and I'm just trying to give some of that experience to the audience, and hopefully they find it valuable.
I think they
Oh,
do. And the other thing that's cool is the authenticity in which you bring it. And you know, I don't know if this is a conscious decision, but like when I see you with your notebook and you're making notes and you're referring to notes, like you really engage in it. It's not something that you've picked out four wines and you know sort of where they are and what you're going to do. It's really in the moment, which is kind of cool.
yeah, it's there's a little bit of both. I am in the, you have to, I as I get down the YouTube rabbit hole more and more and more, which I'm super passionate about YouTube, is you have to make videos that people want to watch and will watch for a long time. So there's a little bit of, it's a balance of how can I create something which I know it wants to go down a certain path, but yet there's room for wiggle, but yet it's still engaging and people will watch it, which I'm still not a master at, because obviously, like, my channel's not humongous. It's big for wine, but in the grand scheme of YouTube, it's not. It's a speck. I have YouTube friends that are humongous,
Well, what do
and
you want it to be?
I would be the biggest wine YouTube channel in the world. That's the first goal. There's other ultimate goals on top of that, but there's also real big stretch goals, big, hairy, audacious goals. But yeah, I stopped writing because I said I cannot be the best writer in the world. Like, writing is one of the hardest things to do. To write well is one of the hardest things. Jerry Seinfeld even said that once. He said, because he writes every day still. Writing is the hardest thing in the world to do. And he should have said, maybe writing well is one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't want to be the best writer in the world. No, can I be? Can I make the best wine videos on the internet? I think I can. That's up to debate and taste if I am or not, but that's kind of the goal that that I'm reaching towards. So I said, I'm just going to strictly focus on video because I think that's what I can do. That's what I can do the best at.
Was that
And
something you determined recently, or was that?
that was during COVID. That's when I stopped writing, because also you don't. It's just hard to make money in writing in general, but especially wine writing. It's really difficult. There's a lot of people in the industry. A lot of not older, traditional journalists have had trouble transitioning and changing with the current environment, the current marketplace, the current media landscape. Although it is changing a lot, at least a lot of them are realizing they have to be on social media. Um, that is changing. Some people are reluctant to do video because it's very intimidating. To look, you have to learn how to fall in love with the lens. The lens has to be your best friend, and you're going to suck when you make videos for a long time until you get comfortable in doing it. Just
Yeah,
like anything in life, you need reps. Like, it's just the podcast. Like I do a video podcast as well. I didn't do it as often as I would like to. I post about once a month. I do some on location, some virtual like this. And when I watch some of my top podcasters, I'll watch, like, YouTube has stumbled into becoming one of the most, if not the most viewed podcasting platform on the planet because of video and the nature of it. If you watch video for a longer time, YouTube will push it to more people that they think will like it. I watch podcasts that are, sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours, not sitting down. Sometimes I'm doing other stuff as well. I'm doing busy work. And some of the big, huge podcasters, you realize why they're so big. Like, they've gotten so good at asking questions, driving conversations, directing conversations. I talk with my friend, the one I mentioned several times about that works out a lot, has chiropractic practice. He's a great communicator of his own. We talk all the time. I said, we work on our communication, but when I watch some of these guys, I feel like I don't know jack because they are so polished, and some of the guests too. Some of the guests just are so polished and thought through in their ideas. That's something I'm striving towards, being a better communicator.
well,
I
that
speak a little too fast and I laugh at myself a lot. So that's not always that's not always the best thing. I got to learn to slow down.
it's just like you said, it's putting the reps in, right? It's not that it's not there, it's just that you just got to sort of fine tune it. And I think, yeah, I think you're a pretty good communicator. I mean, we only see the sort of one direction from the YouTube perspective, but it wouldn't surprise me that you're a pretty good. And look at all the things that you're doing around the world, all the competitions and everything. So you got to be a
Yeah,
good communicator
I no,
to
I
do
don't
that.
think that's the talk about this a lot. That's the you have a lot of guests like this for the most part too. They're achievers. That's like the downside of having the achieving mindset. You're always kind of comparing yourself to people that are up at the top, and you're never really satisfied, which is a good and a bad thing. I mean, look at, I'm a big basketball fan. Obviously, played Michael Jordan, and and that he was just maniacal about practice and getting better. And he talks more openly, especially like in The Last Dance came out during COVID about, that's a curse, in a way, it's kind of a curse. Some
Yeah.
people like Elon Musk talks about that. Like most people wouldn't want to be me. Everything that's going through my, I don't know where you stand, where people stand there. It's not trying to be political, but just talking about the actual mindset. A lot of people wouldn't prefer to be that way.
Well,
Um,
the biggest thing I find with that, and if you don't mind me offering
yeah,
this
go ahead.
up, is I think it has to do with awareness. As soon as you have awareness of all of these things, then you can do some assessment, analysis, some actions, and some accountability. But it all starts with that, awareness of what you're doing, where you are. So if Elon had a certain type of awareness, maybe he closed that down in certain points of his life, and he needs to find it again. But I think once people awaken to what they do and how they do it, that really helps sort of set a course in terms of what you're going to do.
Oh, I just had this conversation with again my friend, my chiropractic friend that I'm gonna go back to. It was us two, and we had another friend in chiropractic college, and that the other friend, the third friend, he's got I think 24 practices now. I think he started a software company.
Wow.
He is just killing it. And my other friend who's doing very well in practice was saying, I feel like I should be doing more, but at the end of the day, I like coming home and, watching a movie with my wife or, taking her out to dinner on Saturday night, which is so funny for him because he was quite an intense guy as well. Uh, again, when we were the same conversation, I was frustrated. Maybe I wasn't kind of at the financial level that he's put himself in position of being in. But again, it's all about the choices we make and knowing, really, like you said, knowing who you are, because then you can adjust. Like for me, I didn't put a big emphasis on my physical health enough to quote unquote look okay, but I started to really fall out of place. Like 16, 17 months ago, I was 45 pounds heavier. Right after this, I'm going to the gym actually, and I don't love it, but I have that my values have shifted because your actions can change or your values can change. You can be
Yep.
more realistic and go to where your values really are, or you can see where your values may change. Physical health now has changed a lot, especially as I get a little bit older, and I'm on camera and realizing images you don't want to admit it, but people are making judgments, micro decisions, micro choices all the
Yeah.
time. So how you look is super important. And I've even noticed in the last 16, 18 months, the difference not only in video or when they interact with certain people or how people look at you when you enter a room. If you're in better shape, it's a tremendous difference. I mean, I think I read something. I can't remember where I saw it sometime, but somebody said, "Is a man the ultimate status symbol when you're in your 40s if you're in shape?" And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty." So yeah, my values have shifted. Now I'm working out like crazy. It's hard to stay in shape as in my industry where it's a lot of food and wine.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well,
but
that
so
also that still feeds your primary or your core values of like travel, right? So,
yeah,
as we age, we are becoming men of a certain age, Matthew.
yeah.
The
Which
travel.
I'm not, which I don't hate. Like I feel like I'm in my prime. I feel like every year's been the best year of my life for the most part. Maybe one in practice. And again, I was going back to that. My business coach is like, you didn't have your best year of your life because you didn't go all out. And it was true. It was reflective in my practice. Revenue, patient volume, everything was kind of stagnant because I was just kind of going through the motions. Um, even tough time all along this journey, tough times, especially trying to make a living or making a living in this business. There are definitely times where I wanted to bang my head, into the table, say, "What am I doing?" But just and working towards something, even during those tough times, has still made every year the best year of my life.
Yeah.
So I don't. We're going back to we're men of certain age. I see it. I've seen. I think guys I've looked up to have always reinvented themselves, have taken care of themselves, and really start to roll. And I mean, there's a reason. Like, what was the average age of the U.S. president? I don't know. It was quite old. You see, like I still follow the NFL. I played football in high school. I played basketball a little bit in college. You see head coaches that finally make it, but going through the grind, and they finally start making it in their 50s, 60s, 70s, even Popovich just retired. What was in his 80s? So,
I
uh,
used to say I thought I was hitting my stride in my 30s. And then when I got to my 40s, I was like, no, 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 no. I'm really starting to get it.
Yeah.
And now I'm entering my 50s and I don't know anything anymore. I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm in
Well,
my stride or I don't know any, it's a different, it's a cool, it's a cool place to be. Like, so for me, it's exciting. And it really sort of gets to challenge some of those things I thought about, in my 30s and 40s. So
yeah, I think, yeah, that's great because again, I'm taking this experience. I haven't hit my 50s yet. So, maybe I'll see the world a little bit differently in the next 7 to 10 years.
I have a funny feeling you will.
Values are shift. Yeah, values might shift. Maybe travel will not be as high up on, although I think travel will always be pretty high up on my priority list because I am not sick of it at all. Actually, this year, especially these next 6 months, I'll probably be traveling the most I've ever been, and I am so excited for. I mean, I just got back from a trip in Canada. I leave again in a couple days for a sparkling wine festival in Oregon. I'll be traveling for a few days, and I'm
Mm.
looking forward to it. I'm super excited. Not looking forward to the work I got to do in between. Like I just finished up. That's why I missed you last week. Actually, I got sorry about that. I got caught up in things I have to do between travel, so my schedule just went over my head.
Well, listen, maybe if the travel ever does slow down for whatever reasons, I think you had mentioned your core values will shift. I don't know if it's shifting. Maybe there's just something underneath the travel that you're exploring or you will explore.
Oh, of
You
course,
know,
yeah.
I think that's cool because you seem to have this endless curiosity.
I think that's the most important. I think that's a huge value for people to have. To me, I'm not just to both men and women, like men if I want to interact with them, women if I would be interested in them. Curiosity is the number one trait. It's a rare thing because I think we lose. And I know a lot of my university friends, my college friends. I don't have the same relationships anymore. Like a couple of them, I feel like they've lost that sense of curiosity, that sense of
Mm,
wonder. When I was in chiropractic school, college. I used to go to a lot of seminars, a lot of personal development people, a lot of authors love chiropractic because the premise of chiropractic is like healing from the inside out. So
mm.
that's a lot of what we're talking about here. And I remember I met and talked with Mark Victor Hansen, one of the co-founders of Chicken Soup for the Soul,
Oh yeah,
him and
yeah.
Jack Canfield. And I remember interacting with Mark, and he just had this boyish sense of wonder in his eyes and how he talked. And I don't know what he was at the time. He must have been mid to high 60s. I don't know. I don't know what he is. I don't know what his age is, but I thought, man, that is really impressive. When I grow up and I'm like that, I still want to have that sense of wonder. So curiosity is probably, looking back on that when I did that exercise, I probably didn't put curiosity in there because it was kind of a more
Esoteric.
metaphysical,
Yeah.
metaphysical, ethereal type of thing. But now I think of it, if you think about it, probably be my number one because that's everything else kind of sits under curiosity. So it just made me clarify a few things a bit. But it's an important trait to have, I think, as a human being.
Well, I almost see that curiosity every single time you look in the glass or you put your nose in the glass. So I think that curiosity informed, at least that's the impression I get on my side. I don't know, it may mean nothing, but that's sort of what I see.
Again, it's also like things how you see the world, right? Like you value that as well, so you can pick that out in people that do. Some people just can go completely over the head. It did for me just now, right? Like I know I'm a curious person, but I just thought for a second, I thought, hey, actually that maybe is like the top value actually that I have because experience, travel, all that stuff falls under curiosity. And you're right, I'm gonna start thinking that because I am curious every time I taste a wine or I'm going to a new region. I'm curious. I want to see what's happening with the types of foods, the types of people, what they're doing, the types of wines that they're making. Um, it's an incredible thing that I think it keeps people interesting. I'm interested in people all the time that are curious.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah, no problem.
I don't want to take up all your time today, although I'd love to, but there's a couple things I'm curious about.
Yeah.
And one of those is who would you say your heroes are, or maybe people who have influenced you along your journey? Who are some of those people?
Oh, a ton, a ton. I think first and foremost, like I have great relation. I'm adopted, but still my parents are my parents. I was 5 months old. My father he was an entrepreneur, a farmer his whole life, kind of
Oh,
taking it easy. A big farm, like 2,500 acres. We're not talking 1,000 hectares if we have European listeners. And there were some tough years. Him and my uncle as partners, and I think he taught me the value of just showing up every day, whether you like it or not. And that's something that I actually took a seminar when I was in my humongous personal development phase, and it was a little more esoteric seminar, but talking about the universe giving me what you want if you show up every single day. Like I never took a sick day off work, whatever I did when I was in private practice. I showed up every single day. So that's probably the biggest lesson on YouTube, especially about two of my biggest influences are Casey Neistat and Peter McKinnon. Casey Neistat was like the godfather of vlogging. Made some, he made actually one video was Nike's most biggest ad campaign of all time. It was just about Nike gave him $50,000 and he traveled around the world and just blew it all with his friend. And the whole, even the story, and I think that video has like 75 million views or something. Peter McKinnon is a photographer in Canada. His videos are, I think he's got 12 million subscribers or something like that. And it
Wow.
kind of pushes me to make my content better and better and better. I think those are, but all along the lines, I played competitive sports my whole life. So coaches have really shaped me into who I've become. And it's as your values and at different stages in life changes, your heroes change at different points in time. Right.
Yeah.
But also it's important to not put people up on a pedestal and see them through your value system
Oh,
because
that's
they're always
interesting.
they're always going to disappoint you. And that's why people, whatever scandals or whatever things happen, that's why people get disappointed with their quote unquote heroes because they're looking at them, judging them based on their value system, which somebody's always going to disappoint you if you're looking through that
Yeah,
lens.
what is that? There's an old saying I'm going to butcher it. It's like something you should never want to meet your heroes in real
Yeah.
life.
It
That's pretty interesting.
no, it's true. You could admire what they're doing and how they communicate, but then you also forget that everybody is a human being and we all make mistakes. Um, we all do things that we're proud of and we're not proud of, and sometimes we have to compromise on certain things. That's just the nature of being a human being, right? So
Absolutely.
super important. So yeah, that's the answer. My heroes are always changing, and it's depending on what phase of life I'm. But those three probably come to the forefront. Right. I was actually a huge fan. I wouldn't say he's hero in the wine business. The late great Steven Spurrier, who put together the Judgment of Paris. I was
Yep.
with him several times. I've actually gotten we've drank quite a bit of wine together, and he was
Really?
always he was
How did
all
you get to meet him? That's
oh
amazing.
the wine industry is super small. When you're in the media space, you meet everybody. Um, and I was actually it kind of hit me quite hard when he passed away because he was always a gentleman and he's a pretty famous figure in the world wine, always generous with his time and really really kind. So I think that's probably one person in wine that I think I really admired. I wouldn't say he was like a hero, like I wanted to do exactly what he was doing, but I always admired.
He had
And again,
an
it was as a human being, not as a wine person. Like the kindness, the kindness, how proper he was, his palate. So
Yeah, he seemed like a very the word's going to sound strange, but a very elegant man. You
oh,
know,
always like a
you could really
always,
connect.
yeah, always a gentleman. Even women are talked about how always talk about how always polite and gentlemanly and professional he was.
Yeah, I think I have the Judgment of Paris. I have. Oh, here.
It's a great book by the journalist. Yep, it's a fantastic book.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, that's part. It's part of my my collection that I pick on every
He
once in a
he,
while.
he recreated the first time I met him. He recreated the Judgment of Paris. I won a fellowship to Napa Valley, and he recreated a little Judgment of Paris tasting. That was fun. He told me all the inside stories behind that. Now, what's one thing I admired him? I remember him and I, because a bunch of writers where I was media, and I remember one night we were tasting a bunch of '07 Napas. There were like 15, 16 wines out. '07 was a great. 2007 was a very good vintage in Napa, and him and I were the last two guys standing. Everybody had went home. And then the next day we did a tasting at Robert Mondavi Winery. I remember we were blind tasting 13, 14, 15 Napa Cabernet. And I have good palate stamina, but those tannins start to get to you, and I needed to
Yeah.
take a break. And I remember seeing him taste through every single one. He's an older gentleman. I was like, Mr. Spurrier, I said, I'm really, really impressed. And he looked at me, he's like, this is what I do. Just nonchalantly. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm awesome, blah, blah, blah. He said, this is what I do.
You know that if you just pause and think about that, it's a very simple statement, but it's a very powerful statement.
Yeah.
He
There,
didn't he have his he had his own vineyard, right? Wasn't he making sparkling
he,
wines or
Bride Valley. Yep. Still, I think it's still in existence. Nice little sparkling, nice little, it's not little. English sparkling wines are expensive. Yeah, that's the last time I saw him actually. And we were in Istria, Croatia at a show. He came down and we were at a big tasting dinner, and then he brought a bottle of Bride Valley. So he asked me what I thought about it, and I was like, "You're asking me what I think?" It's like my opinion doesn't matter to you.
Oh, Matthew, yeah, that is amazing. I hope one of these days I get an opportunity to have a glass with you, because I think that would be a lot of fun. But I don't want to let you go just yet. If there's somebody that would have, if somebody was listening to this, hopefully there's going to be a lot. What would be the one or two takeaways that you would want them to have?
Just life or wine or anything.
Whatever
Uh,
you'd like.
I would say go back to what you were talking about. Implore people to be more curious about the world. I think curious people make the world better. That's that's basically. I could go on and on about that, but I think if the world needs people that are more curious.
If people want to get in touch or they want to check out your YouTube channel, what's the best way that they can find
Yeah,
you easily?
it's Dr. Matthew Horkey on YouTube. On Instagram, I'm there often. It's called Dr. Matty H, with a Y. My other name was taken, so I don't know why, but that's I spent some time on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook. It's all under Dr. Matthew Horkey, so that's easy enough. For most platforms, that's where you'll find me.
Very cool. Matthew, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. It means a lot, and I really appreciate some of your insights. It's been very cool. Thank you.
No, it was a great conversation. You were very good at letting you're obviously very knowledgeable at the subject matter, but also letting me cook a little bit, letting the guests cook a little bit. So thank you.
You got it. Hopefully, I'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good.